7 days and over 40 rounds later, Reliance Industries Limited has emerged as the top bidder in India's first 5G spectrum auction. While 5G was the auction's centerpiece, the government had also offered 72.09 GHz of spectrum across 10 frequency bands for sale. At Rs 1.5 trillion, the total revenue figure is the highest amount earned since mobile auctions began in 2010. The quantum of spectrum on offer was also the highest, but the government was able to sell only around 35% of the spectrum on offer in value terms, given the total figure of Rs 4.3 trillion as per the base price. Communications Minister Ashwini Vaishnav said that based on the bids, the telcos have to shell out Rs 13,365 crore as their first installment in a few days. Shelling out more than double the amount that Bharti Airtel did, Reliance Jio emerged as the top bidder at Rs 88,078 crore for 24,740 MHz of spectrum. Apart from the 1800 MHz band and the 5G bands of 3.3 GHz and 26 GHz, this also includes the crucial 700 MHz band, which is considered critical for 5G. Jio was the only player that brought spectrum across bands that are considered critical for efficient 5G services globally. This is crucial because Jio is going in for an advanced standalone 5G network, unlike its rivals, who have opted for a non-standalone network. Airtel appeared more circumspect, buying 19,876 MHz of spectrum in various bands, including 5G, for Rs 43,084 crore. It kept away from the crucial 700 MHz band. Vodafone Idea spent far lower at only Rs 18,799 crore for 6,228 MHz of spectrum. The new entrant, Adani Enterprises, whose entry into the sector took many by surprise, spent just Rs 212 crore for bagging 400 MHz in the millimeter band in 6 circles, including Gujarat, Mumbai, Karnataka, Tamil Nadu, Rajasthan and Andhra Pradesh. Adani purchased these airwaves for setting up captive non-public networks across its airports and ports. So where does this leave the sector as a whole? Reliance Jio bought 10 MHz across all 22 circles in the 700 MHz band, which will give it a distinct advantage in 5G because of its huge coverage and requirements for fewer towers. It can cover the entire country with this band. According to Bank of America Securities, with regard to 5G rollout and market share gains, RIL is the best positioned player, followed by Airtel. The advantage of standalone 5G is that Jio would be able to offer true low latency applications. Meanwhile, it will be difficult for its peers to offer the same given the lack of spectrum. Overall, BofA Securities finds that all of this could help Jio poach high-end customers from its competitors.
Well, it's too soon to say that it will be a disruption because unlike 4G, 5G is much more niche. 5G is not a logical extension of 4G in that sense, right? 5G has new features. So yes, Reliance having obtained 700 megahertz can be expected to roll it out on a much wider scale, but time will tell how this plays out. It's clear that it is increasingly dominant in the market. But I think the market share of players like Airtel and even Vodafone is not insignificant. Even at number 3, I mean, Vodafone has roughly 20 crore customers. So I don't think that we are in for a walkover for one single company or that a duopoly is imminent. But yes, the dominance of Reliance Jio will actually will be much more than it was already.
According to Nomura, the 700 MHz band could also potentially give Jio an advantage in terms of network quality, especially indoors. Airtel will likely come under pressure to have a network similar to Jio if the latter is able to create a significant differentiation in network quality for 5G. According to BofA Securities, this raises the probability of Airtel acquiring the 700 MHz band in the next auction, where the pricing is likely to be similar to that at the recently concluded one. All of this could translate to capex investments being higher for Airtel. Overall, 5G related investments are likely to remain high for a couple of years. Meanwhile, Vodafone Idea has restricted its 5G plans to priority areas. This was evidenced by the fact that it only acquired 5G spectrum in 16-17 priority circles. Also, given significant delays in fundraising, capital expenditure constraints, existing gaps in 4G coverage, and just 12 to 15% share of spectrum in the 5G bands, Nomura projects that Vodafone Idea's 5G rollout would likely lag behind that of its peers. This could lead to further accelerated market share gains for Jio and Airtel. So will the telecom sector see another disruption led by Jio like the one it saw with its entry into the business?
I can say that the sector is not in for another disruption. So I think the sector is now forward-looking. The sector is now looking at consolidating. The sector is now looking at providing better quality services to customers, better innovation. The pricing to start with may remain the same, maybe even marginally discounted to 4G so that to lure more and more customers on the 5G network. And when I say pricing, the bundles could certainly change because 5G globally has also shown that the consumption of data goes up. So the data that we will consume will be much more. Now that could lead to a higher ARPU for the operators, even though we have some of the unlimited data packs or data packs which are not crossing the current limits, but we may see that happening. I think the other thing that we may see with 5G happening is, home broadband. India just has about 10% penetration when it comes to home broadband or fiber to home. And that's what I mean by home broadband. I think 5G with the small cell architecture, the last mile problem could get solved. And whilst we still need a lot of intra-city fiber, but the last mile issues would get solved. And we may see a faster home broadband rollout as well. And that could be an opportunity. And we have seen.
In all likelihood, we may not see any disruption. And there may not be any price wars either. Nomura says that Indian telcos have refrained from charging a premium for 4G plans when compared to 2G and 3G ones. However, with higher speeds and the initial uptake coming from premium customers, it sees a potential for telcos to charge a premium for 5G when compared to 4G. In fact, 5G premiums might provide the next leg of average revenue per user uptick for Indian telcos.
If you like this video, share it and subscribe to Business Standard. For more news, views and insights, log on to www.business-standard.com. Do also follow us on YouTube, Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, Telegram and LinkedIn.
सब अच्छी दिख रही हैं यार, कौन सी खरीदूं?
ये तो वही बात हुई, 4000 शेयर्स लिस्टेड है, कौन सा लूं?
वो तो सबसे आसान है।
तुझे 5 पैसा नहीं पता?
अब तो सबको पता है। 5 पैसा पर है 4000 स्टॉक्स की रिसर्च, टेक्निकल टूल्स और इन्वेस्टमेंट आइडियाज। डाउनलोड 5 पैसा नाउ।
अब तो सबको पता है, investing made easy and rewarding with 5 paisa. Investments in securities market are subject to market risks. Read all the related documents carefully before investing.